Hi Rookie, welcome again to Stronger Than One Fitness League. So what we're gonna do now, before we have our first workout, we're gonna go over the 5 movement patterns that make up a healthy strength training workout. So if you are missing one of these in a strength training program, you're actually missing an entire really valuable group. And so we're gonna go over all 5. That way you're able to maximize as much as you can get out of your workout. So instead of working one tiny little muscle, we're gonna work multiple at once. And that's gonna lead us to greater results and oftentimes faster results. And I think we all could, we all love fast results, right? So we're gonna go over all 5 of these, and there's 2 really important things I want you to remember. The first is that all of them are very important in our strength training program. They all help us to have the results we want, even if it's like you're saying, well, I just want a stronger core, I really want stronger arms. These are all imperative to helping you get there because we need to work on our whole body rather than neglecting. And the second thing, probably more important than any of the others, is you should have pain-free range of motion as you're doing all 5 of these. So if you ever notice that a certain thing hurts, a certain area of the body is hurting while you do this, you need to stop and you need to assess what's going on, because it might be an issue with the form, it might be an issue regarding how hard the exercise is right now based on wherever you're at. But no matter what, we should have pain-free range of motion. So we're gonna go through all 5 of these. I encourage you to try them out and bring any questions that you have with you into that first workout. I'm here for you no matter what. You can reach out to me, text me anytime, but let's go over them. So first things first, we have the plank, squat, hinge, push, and pull. We're gonna go over all of these. So let's start with our plank. So there are many ways to do this. We're gonna modify based on where you're at, whether you can go to the floor or not, and whether you are more experienced or not. I'm gonna show you a traditional plank, and then we'll talk about how to modify this based on where you're at and whatever your goals are. So when we do a plank, we're gonna do a traditional plank on our elbows. We either want our hands flat or in a fist, but not together. And the reason is because we want to have the tactile contact between our hands and the floor, and it's more challenging this way. So I'm gonna start like this. I'm gonna place one foot back, other foot back, and I'm gonna focus on keeping my back rounded the whole time. So a lot of times traditionally we see a plank done kind of like this. We don't want this because now I'm putting all the strain on my back. I wanna keep it rounded, so now I'm protecting my back, I'm fully engaging my core, and I'm keeping myself out of pain. So a lot of cool things happen there. Now, we might, when we train together, based on wherever you're at, what your goals are, you may notice that we actually start here on our knees, but we're gonna apply the same rules. So I'm gonna keep my back rounded. And from here, I might extend opposite arm as leg, hold, and bring it back down. And I might do the same thing on the other side. So we call that a bird dog. And I would exhale to lengthen, inhale, come back in. Just like that. Other ways to modify this are I might place my elbows on an incline of some kind, and I might send my feet back, round my back. It's the exact same exercise, but I'm a little bit lifted, and that's usually nice if you're not comfortable going to the floor. So that is, in a nutshell, that is our plank. And you're gonna notice as we go through these other ones that we actually apply that in many of our exercises that we do. So second one is gonna be the squat. When we do a squat, we wanna make sure our feet are shoulder width apart. We're gonna wanna make sure that our toes are pointed to the front. It's okay if they're a little bit out, but for the most part, we're pointing them to the front. And from here, I'm gonna sit my hips back like I'm sitting in a chair, and I'm gonna press my knees out to the side. So it's gonna look something like this. I sit back into my chair, I press my knees out, and then I bring myself up. And for breathing, I don't expect you to remember any of this, by the way. It took me a couple of months to remember the proper breathing, but just so you have an idea, I'm gonna inhale as as I sit, and I'm gonna exhale as I stand. Now, if this ends up being great and you're ready to move on, we might incorporate some weight, holding it at our chest, right? And if squats are something that actually you have a horrible relationship with and you hate them, we'll talk about that too, because there are ways to modify it. But at the end of the day, everybody can squat. We just have to adjust how we're doing it to make it work for you. So we'll talk. Second one, we have the hinge. So something to note is there's really, for the most part, two ways of moving our legs when we exercise. The first one is a squat, and the second one is a hinge. So we just talked about our squat, right? And we talked about how when we do it, we sit our hips back and they're in line with the knees. In a hinge, it is adjusted so my hips are not in line with my knees. So what I do is I make sure that my feet are still shoulder width apart. And this time I'm gonna focus on having a straight line through my spine, from my neck all the way to my hips. So I'm not like this, not like this. It's straight. I'm gonna sit my hips back. I'm gonna bend my knees slightly, and then I'm gonna come back up. And that's the movement pattern. When I do a hinge, I actually want to focus on the glutes and the hips working, not my back, which is a huge misconception sometimes. People may think, oh, I felt it in my back, that must have been good. No, it probably meant that your spine was like this, or the weight was too heavy. So again, when I do my hinge, I sit my hips back, I bend my knees slightly, I have my straight line, and I come right back up. And ways to make this harder would be to incorporate weight. Usually it's down here somewhere. You might have seen someone do this with a barbell. It's like the most common thing we think of. And there are ways to make this easier as well. And again, we'll talk about that based on wherever you're at and what you need. On to our fourth one. We have our push. I'm gonna show you a traditional push, which would be a push-up. And then we're going to talk about other ways to do that, and the pull as well. So when we do a push or a pull, we actually have two, for the most part, we have many dimensions, but we're going to talk about two of the most common. Horizontal, which is right out here by our chest, and vertical, which is above the head. Raise the roof. So when we do, we're going to do the horizontal first. And so our most traditional would be our push-up. So when we do a push-up traditionally, I like to have a target of some kind. So I'm going to use this yoga block, place that there. And the beautiful part of this is we can adjust the level, right? So we'll place it here, our most common. When we do a push-up, we want our hands in line with our shoulders. So we're not out here, not in here, right here. And then from here, I'm going to send one foot back, other foot back, pause. Hey, look at what position I'm in, guys. Oh my gosh, I'm in a plank. So I want to keep my back rounded. I'm going to bend my arms. My elbows are at 45 degrees. I touch the block. I come back up. My back is rounded again. I'm going to inhale to go down. Exhale. I press. And that is our traditional push-up. Ways to make this harder are, we'll talk about using bands, going lower, right, with the block. Ways to make this easier. Most people, I don't actually start down here. We maybe work our way over time, or we just do a different variation altogether. So a way to make this easier is just like with the plank. I'm gonna raise it. So my hands are still in line with my shoulders. I'm still gonna send those feet back. I round my back. And from here, I inhale to bring my chest to my target, and I exhale to press. So the exact same exercise, you guys. From there, our very last one is our overhead. Yes, so overhead push. So for this one, I'm gonna use my dumbbell, and I'm gonna show you the more common way that I like to teach this one in the beginning. So when I'm doing an overhead push, I normally will have Be on one knee if you're comfortable with it. If not, we'll have you stand. I'm going to bring my arm here. So my dumbbell right now is right at my collarbone and my elbow is in. Remember guys, we're gonna go over all of this, but the most important thing is I want you to take notes of the form. So when I'm here, you'll notice that I'm gonna tuck my hips under, which allows me to engage my core. So it's almost like I'm in that plank again. And then I'm gonna exhale, and as I press, I'm gonna turn my arm out, and my arm is right by my ear. And then I inhale to bring it back in. Exhale, turn out, okay? And then we would do the same thing on that other arm. Ways to make this harder is to increase the weight, and we can also adjust it so we're standing up when we do it. But also, we might do this with a band, and we'll talk about how that works, but it's the exact same form. I always want my elbow in, and as I press, I rotate it out and I'm by my ear. And that's really what I want you guys to be remembering as we're going over this. We're on to our last one, our pull. So with the pull, we're gonna do horizontal first, and then we'll do vertical. So for a horizontal pull, most common way to do this is to have you seated with the legs straight. But we can also do this sitting on a chair. We can do it from standing. We can do it on one knee, lots of ways. So I'm gonna take this, and if you use the Amazon wish list that I sent you, then you might have a band that loops all the way. You're not gonna have this one, and that's okay. It works the exact same way. In fact, I like that one better. So what you're gonna do, we're gonna wrap the band around the balls of our feet. We're gonna straighten our legs, and we're gonna sit up tall with our back straight, never slouching. So the closer that you grab on the band, the harder it's gonna be, and the further away your hands are from your feet, the easier it will be. So you're gonna wanna play around with this to figure out where you need to be, and then from here, I'm gonna exhale to pull. You'll notice my form is very similar to push, right? So I'm right at my armpits, and my elbows are at 45 degrees. I'm not into my body, I'm not out to the side, I'm right in the middle. I inhale to come back, exhale, pull to my armpit again, and come back. And I want, with my exhale, I'm focusing on engaging my abs. So far, we've made everything a core exercise in this video, and we will continue to do that as we train together as well. So the very last one is our overhead pull. So for this one, I'm gonna show you, again, the most common way we start this, but again, we can do this in many positions. We call this a tall kneel. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna hold my band overhead, and I'm gonna pull it apart, and then from here, I'm gonna bring it to my chin, so it's like I'm doing a chin up. I bring it right back up, and I can do the same thing going behind me without moving my head, and bring it straight up. So I'm pulling, 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 pulling. I'm also tucking my hips under, engaging my core, and then I do the same thing going the other way. And that would be all of our movement patterns. Plank. We're always in a plank. Think about any questions you may have or anything that you may have learned from this video. Bring it into the first workout we have together. I'd love to hear how it went for you and what you're thinking. And I look forward to training with you. I know this was a lot of stuff. This is stuff we're gonna cover over a length of time, but just so you have an idea of how this stuff works. There you go. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you later.